Good to have you along here on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you were with us. Plenty to get to here on the shows. We have got the NFL Combine, sort of, this weekend with evals and interviews going on virtually. We'll look at some of that. We'll look at our mock draft. We'll try to run through the first round. Myself, BJ, Ben, we'll let Cody get involved in it here as well with our mock draft, and we will run down the first round here as we see it a few weeks out of the NFL draft. So we'll get to that here on the show. Have a little update from the Masters. Check in, see how things are going there in round number 2. And, of course, some spring games coming up this weekend. Most notably in the ACC, you've got NC State and Florida State, both the spring games this weekend as well. But baseball tonight, Braves home opener, honoring Hank Aaron. Going to be wearing the old white and blue uniforms that a lot of people like with a lowercase a going on the hat. 44 painted in the outfield. Going to be a big night. First time they've had fans back in Atlanta in a year, or actually over a year. You're going to have Hank Aaron, obviously, Phil Niekro. Remembrances taking place as it's the home opener, and Freddie Freeman's MVP kind of ceremony going to be happening before the game. So a big start to a weekend against the Phillies team who swept you just a couple of days ago, BJ. So a big series early to try not to get swept again and go 6 down, head up against the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, an important set of games. You know, opening day is always special. You think about the late Hank Aaron and hero on the field, hero off the field. I mean, his legacy unparalleled. What a just what a leader, what a man. So emotions, feelings, remembrances beyond just what happens on the field in terms of some big baseball games. But Kev, man, listen, you're a Metro Atlanta guy. You're the Braves fan, the leading Braves fan and expert on the show. What does opening day mean to you? I know Bud Ellis was talking about it a little bit. What does it mean to you?
Well, I mean, again, home openers are nice because you get the fan. Normally, you would say this is our first chance to see the team at home, but I mean, this is the first chance to see them in person in a year. So I think this one for the people that are there, I believe it's pretty much limited to only season ticket holders for this first series because of the limited amount of fans. I think it's like 33%, something like that, that they're allowing this weekend. But normally opening day, it's like, hey, everybody's got a shot. Everybody's feeling good, but it's the first time the Braves been home. It's kind of like, hey, summer's around the corner. Gonna be a lot of fun. Usually it means school's almost out back when I was a kid. So, but yeah, it's always fun to get the first one at home. Hopefully you get the win column. And again, compared to games from last year, having fans there. And again, if during the pandemic you've watched games with no fans compared to games even with a minuscule amount of fans, there's no comparison. 8, 9, 10,000 people can be pretty loud compared to maybe what we're accustomed to. But you go back and watch some replays of games last year, and it's like you could hear a pin drop. I actually believe the Nationals general manager Rizzo got thrown out of a Braves game from up in the box at Truist Park last year because there was nobody there, and they could hear him yelling way up in the box. So not having anybody there is awful. Having people there makes it so much better, and I know it'll be nice to have some people back in the stands tonight at Truist Park.
It's one step to getting back to normalcy. And I think sometimes when you talk about, how far we've come in a year, BJ, I know you be measuring like, how many fans compared to how many can't be there. Number one, if Ronald Acuna Jr., obviously everybody can't wait to see him step up to the plate, but then you look at the throwback unis. Sometimes we forget just how historic the Braves franchise is, and obviously we doing it from afar. But I do think they having the fans back there today, as Kevin, and it does. And let's face it, I know it's early. It's much better walking in being 2-4 than 0-6. But I just think that this is our first glimpse of watching these guys at home. I mean, you know how competitive this National League, this division is going to be. And I just think that when you think about what this Braves team have in front of them, they got a lot of great talent out there, led by Ronald Acuna. I know the bats got to get going, but as you mentioned, Kevin, it's amazing. You talk about when you became a Braves fan. You mentioned school is rapidly coming to a close. I guess now we on the receiving end because we're the parents. Back when we were the young ones, our parents were like, okay, let's get them to these Braves games. But number two, the Braves are a team that really have a chance. Kevin and BJ, to make some noise in the postseason. Let's face it, most home openers are home openers. That's it. Get a chance to go in there, eat some hot dogs. It's over as soon as they say play ball. It's a wrap. At least for this Braves team, they got a shot to be very, very good. And I'm looking forward to watching them guys get out there tonight. Hopefully they'll get a dub. But as you say, Kevin, as long as Kevin's calm when it comes to the Braves, I'm calm. Because if I go off BJ, well, I'm gonna be all over the place.
Yeah, you'll be an emotional roller coaster for sure. But no, it'll be nice to just to see, like I said, see people there. And hey, it may not sound like a lot, 10, 11,000 fans. I mean, that's the Marlins home game right there. I mean, that's what they're used to. But it is like, that's not even a dig. That's true.
But if it's up to Derek,
if you're in the state of Florida and you go to Marlins and say, hey, we'll let the Marlins have full capacity for anybody who wants to go, they literally will be at like 30%. It's fine. But no, anyway, I think these games are cool because it's a division game. And again, I think it's kind of hold serve at home. If you could play well, 2019, the Marlins averaged 10,016 fans a game. So yeah, it's a Marlins game.
I mean, listen, and Derek Jeter was mad about that. Like, why are they still coming? We don't want nobody to come see this. Why? Give out a bunch of white shirts. No, I'm looking. Listen, I mean, obviously, I'm very, very optimistic. I go back to not to compare the two, but the opening day in football. I mean, everybody's optimistic. I mean, it's your first time to go out there and show what you've done. You're a different player. This is a different team. This is a different year. And then they kick the ball off, and well, much of the same from the previous year. But no, this Braves team should be really, really good. I mean, we talking about, Max Fried hasn't been himself thus far. I know everybody's talking about BJ. I mean, is it? I know we were talking about Ronald Acuna Jr. being number 4 out of the top 100 players in baseball. Got a shot to supersede, Mike Trout. He's already got 2 homers and 2 stolen bases. So that 40-40 is on his mind. I think he want to add that to his resume before he start talking about leading the league in homers, which he can do that too. But I see this Braves team getting back to what they do. I know the bats haven't really, been on fire yet, but as Kevin say, somebody's due. Somebody gonna have to feel it, and hopefully it starts tonight.
Yeah, get a little Truist Park magic working, where the Braves seem to play really, really well. And again, our first chance to see Charlie Morton in a Braves uniform at home, BJ. So this is a guy that was brought in to be the veteran presence, a guy that can hopefully be one of those guys that really pitches big for you in big spots. Well, this is the home opener. It's a big moment. He's already pitched more than Cole Hamels pitched all of last year for the Braves, so you already got your money's worth from that respect. But, I mean, again, if Max Fried is going to struggle, it falls down to now, this is the guy. I mean, you can't throw it all on Ian Anderson and say, hey, man, hey, Rook, our ace is struggling. You go get him. No, this is why Charlie Morton got brought in and got paid a nice little contract to come in and be that guy. Hey, you are here to put a Band-Aid on the wound. If we are bleeding, you are paid to go out there and stop it. And so I think that is what you're out there to do is don't let the Phillies come in and take 3 more from you. And it starts tonight at home, and hopefully you can get a dub. He pitched pretty well against them last time, just ironically the same matchup again against Zach Wheeler. He's going to try to see if he can keep the Phillies from getting some bloop hits and actually hit the ball hard this time to beat you.
And I think Morton was brought in to kind of embrace the pressure, right? Sometimes for young pitchers, even guys that are very accomplished, when the pressure rises and you're dealing with a losing streak or, there are some concerns about the offense or whatever, that's a lot to deal with. When you're Charlie Morton, you've been around the league, 15 years? I mean, Ben, I know you talked about how much different your mindset was as a senior at UF compared to a freshman or as a, 5-6 year guy in the NFL versus your rookie year. Well, Morton's 37 years old. I mean, he's been in the league 15 plus years, started out or early on in his career was with the Braves. I think he embraces kind of the spotlight starts where it's, hey, everybody's watching us. We need a dub. We know we started out 0-4. I wasn't at my best necessarily last time out. I'm with you. I think he was good. I think he was really good. Not great, but you have a guy that knows how to win, knows how to manage situations, knows how to get you into the 7th inning. I think this is a big spot for Charlie Morton, and I agree, Ben. Right? You bring in veterans to help you when you need it. You bring in veterans to step up when the pressure's on a little bit. So big start for Charlie tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes when you talk about, what is your importance to a team, people always talk about the superstar. Well, the superstar is only going to be 1, maybe 2 guys in baseball. Guys like Charlie Morton, I mean, it's invaluable what they bring because obviously he's in the top spot because he's a pitcher, but then he affects so much of the game. I think that when you talk about how we forget, I mean, Freddie Freed is 31? I think Marcell Ozuna's like 30, and they're like old compared to the guys around them. because you got 22, 23. So to have a guy that's really been through it all in the league and can kind of tell those guys, look, obviously I know how good of a team you guys were without me. I'm hoping to add something to you guys. And I think that having that veteran presence is almost crucial, because you want a guy that's seen it all and done it all. That way, he'll get reminded just how old he is when he watched Ronald Acuna Jr. running around, but then he'll get to go out there and show his veteran experience. When you talk about, starting rotation in the bullpen, is definitely going to have to go out there and earn their money too.
Certainly. We'll have that for you coming up 6:05 a little bit later here this evening. Before we step aside, again, we'll get into some more interesting stuff happening around baseball from yesterday. But DMX been passed away today, age of 50. And I know we talked about he's one of those guys where if you like rap or not, you probably have heard one of his songs somewhere, because athletes use it for pump up. I think we did it. That was one of the take 3 question away, because like, hey, what would you listen to get yourself pumped up? I can't remember. I think you might have said it was DMX, but passed away at the age of 50 today.
Yeah, I mean, man, it seems like we keep on, and you don't want to place one person's significance over another person, but a guy like DMX, when people think a rap star, right? I think he was much bigger than that, because like you said, Kevin, it wouldn't matter. You from Swainsboro, Georgia, Gwinnett, you knew who he was, right? So when people are always saying, "Oh, what is my demographic?" People with ears. If you had ears growing up, you know who DMX is. And I think, too, the one thing I can appreciate the most about DMX, he never ran away from his imperfections. He talked about what he was good at and what he struggled with from as long as I knew him. Got a chance to meet him in 2001. We was at the Orange Bowl, and he was in Miami. He walked by and saw us, and he just spoke to us like he wasn't even DMX. He didn't come off big time. So obviously my condolences goes out. I think they said he had 17 kids. So my heart goes out to DMX's children and the family left behind. But I mean, to say he will be missed it ain't even doing him worth. The DMX, man, one of the greatest to ever do it, but he will be missed.
Well said, Ben, and thoughts and prayers. Obviously, condolences. Very sad, and yet was a very talented actor as well. DMX.
Yeah, had a couple of roles out there in the movies as well, and he will be certainly sorely missed at the age of 50. We'll come back. More to come on this Friday. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, PJ Bennett, Ben Troop, glad you're with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Coming up in about 10 minutes, we're going to start our mock draft. We're going to have myself, PJ, Ben, bring in Cody as well. We are going to mock the first round, and we will play it out. Each of us will get a pick. We'll see how it goes. What do teams decide to do in this mock draft as we work through it? It seems like we know who's going to be number 1, number 2, but how does the rest play out when it's all said and done? A lot to think about. We'll do that when we come back in the next segment. But some weird stuff, like that's why we love sports, because stuff happens in sports that you're like, that's weird, and you just don't see it every day. That happened yesterday with the Mets, BJ and Ben. The Mets and the Marlins tied, bottom of the 9th inning, bases loaded. Michael Conforto takes a pitch. It's about to be called strike 3 by the ump. He leans over the plate, sticks that elbow out there, catches it off the elbow, hit by a pitch, go to first base, winning run crosses the plate. The Marlins say, wait a minute. He stuck his hand out over the plate to intentionally get hit. You're not supposed to be able to do that. Can't review it because it's a judgment call by the umpires. They confer, they don't overturn it. Marlins lose the baseball game. I would imagine Conforto steps back in against the Marlins. He won't have to worry about leaning an elbow over the plate. Next time, they'll make sure it's a clean one when it comes across. But one of those strange things where a guy leans over, gets hit on purpose by the ball, game over, you lose. Not supposed to be able to do that according to the rules. But replay and all of our technology won't allow you to review it.
Yeah, I would be at a loss if I was, for in more ways than one. If I'm the Miami Marlins, I would be sitting here going, wait a second. Clearly, like we can all look at this and we saw it in the moment that he leaned in to try to get hit by the baseball. The baseball was a strike. The pitch was a strike. I understand and great detail in our notes about kind of why the rules won't allow you to review that, but if an umpire makes a clear mistake that directly costs a team a win and directly gives a team a win. I mean, Kevin, Ben, I don't know if you ever experienced anything like that in the league, but there has to be some sort of, I guess, secondary protocol in place, right? If a game is clearly won and lost because of an obviously wrong call, like from what I understand, Kevin, and sure, people have had the benefit of replay and whatnot, but this is not even up for debate. Like, this is not controversial. This is not, well, maybe. No, he leaned into a strike and advanced the runners that way. We have got to, with the technology we have a way to kind of reevaluate that, right?
Yes, but the whole thing about it is, too, I mean, I don't think the game should end on non-competitive plays in a situation like that. Like, you know what he's doing. Like, the ump, I mean, sometimes knowing the rules doesn't benefit you. If I'm that ump, no, that's a strike. Like, because look at what he's doing. Or I would do this. You know how, like, when a player gets fined, they get fined according to their past behavior. Has he ever done this before? Like, what's the guy that played? What's the guy for Duke that kept kicking people? The basketball player. What was his name?
Grayson Allen.
And you see how he did it a lot? Oh, he's done this before. Because think about this, Kevin. Okay, this is your team now. Okay, the Braves lose. See, that's how I get people to really look. If it's your team, and they do that, you go, really? Because, see, it's either, oh, man, it's just baseball. Because that's not your team. You ain't got no vested interest. But when that is your team, that is not sports. Once again, Kevin don't like the DH because it promotes laziness. Number one. Number two, what does this promote? Hey, man, and this thing, who wants to try to get hit by a pitch? If that ain't non-competitive, I want to get hit by nothing, let alone no pitch. You can't let the game end like that because, once again, Kevin and BJ, what does it say moving forward? Because you know it's going to happen again, right? And then somebody else does it. Do it? Oh, wait. No, man. Like, that's not a competitive play. Go back and say he got struck out. That was going to be a strike. He stuck, man. Get out of here. Pro sports is the creme de la creme. We are the best in the world. This is the best we got to offer to get the game over. You already put a guy on second in overtime, right? Actually,
and again, but I mean, this is the case. I think you look at in a lot of professional sports where replay doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, you'll replay things that just waste time, right? But you don't replay something that could potentially cost somebody the game. Like, hey, did he lean over the plate and intentionally take one off the elbow so that he could get on first base and win the game? We can't review that, but we'll sit here for 10 minutes to see if the ball hit the chalk or not in the left field line. And again, I think that's one of those things where over the course of the game, if it's like a close call down the line, maybe that affects the game or not. But I'm in favor of get the call right, but we can't take all day with it because I think people are like, hey, we want to hurry up and get the game over. I'm not in favor of like, hey, let's just hurry up the game to get it over. But replay and replay stoppages stink because you have a flow of the game and then it's like, stop. I mean, it's the worst in football. Hey, we're on a drive. Your team's on a drive. Boom, boom, boom. 8-play drive. We're cramming it down their throat. They're tired. Ooh, we're going to review this potential targeting on the sideline for the next 6.5 minutes. And then when you get back out there, it's like, now we're starting the drive over. It totally kills all the momentum of the game. So I think you can overdo it with replay, but on certain things, I think you have to, as a league, come out and say, look, these are plays that we are willing to stop the game for and make sure we get right. Outplays. Are we intentionally doing something to skirt the rules? Homer calls. That's about it. Look, is he going in a little bit too far outside the bag? Dirty slide. All right, we could call that in the game. If you don't call it live action, it is what it is. Let's not stop the game every 10 minutes so we can review what may have happened. I know we want to get it right, but I think you got to compromise with get it right, but don't disrupt the flow of the ball game because I think that could affect the outcome of the game as much as whether you got the review right or not.
Well, I need you guys to explain this to me because I know people say you can't review a judgment call. Isn't when you judge foul or fair or home run or foul ball, isn't that a judgment call in the moment where the umpire's looking up and going, yeah, I think that was inside the pole. I'm going to say that's a home run. And then you review it and you realize it was not a home run. Is that not any different than a pitch being a strike, a guy leaning into it, you being able to review that pitch, the location of the pitch,
but in your case,
saying, hey, that's a strike?
But in your case, the ball's either fair or it's foul, not, hey, was this guy?
Kevin, the ball was either a ball or a strike. That's what I'm getting at. Like, how do we determine foul or fair?
The intent part is you're judging whether Michael Conforto intentionally put his elbow out there.
No, I'm not judging that. I'm judging, did he stick his arm into the strike zone? And the strike zone, we know where it is and what it is. If he stuck his arm into the strike zone, how is reviewing that any different than reviewing if a ball was to the left or right of a pole?
Yeah, but the whole thing about it is too, what you really got to ask yourself is, are you willing to let one player go, toe the line of the rules? Because you got to, that's why I like the fact the ump should be able to say, listen, this is what I'm gonna go with, live with it, not this. What are the fans gonna think? Forget that. Like, what is he doing? What is the batter doing? If he didn't move, would that have been a strike? Yep. So I think, and the whole thing about it is, BJ, this what you love about pro sports. You always talk about singularity, let the robots do it and all this. This is why you don't. No, this is why you don't. That umpire, I'm gonna live and die with his decision. He goes and goes, well, it did hit him. Yeah, it did, but it hit him. You got to put did he move so that it can hit him? I just think that, to me, I can't live with that kind of stuff. I'm a bad sport. If I lose, I lose. But if I look and I go, you gonna let that would have been the first bench clearing fight. Because what is that? Like, think about this. This is competitive sports. There is nothing competitive about what he did, and that won him the game. I'm just now his teammates gonna have to answer for it. The manager's gonna have to answer.
Kevin, I heard him say,
hold on. Kevin, you're the ump. What would you have said?
Well, I'm getting ready to ring him up with strike 3. Now, if I'm going to go hit by a pitch, obviously you're bent over the plate. You're not trying to get, like, you're in the strike zone getting hit by a ball. Like, obviously that you didn't swing at. I would have called, look, you didn't make an effort to get out of the way. It was in the strike zone. Strike 3, go sit down. I mean, I think that's the call you make. Now, if he just stands there and takes one, that's a different story. But he actively, you could see, came out into, you were so focused on the ball's ump, you were about to ring it up, strike 3. And it hit him.
Kevin, I heard audio, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but Conforto said something along the lines of, I didn't go up there with the intention to do that. It was a slider, and I was seeing the ball break, and I was anticipating the break. I reacted. Do you buy that?
No. I mean, hold on, BJ. No, BJ, do you buy that? Because think about this. What do they not like in basketball? They don't like flopping. This is the baseball version of that. Like, think about this. He had enough time to think about what he was going to say when listen, I was getting ready for the slider. You're a liar. You're a liar. You leaned in to get the game over. I'm telling you, are we athletes or not? Are we competitors or not? That's not competitive. And you let it ride. The ump should have just said he's out, move on. But that's why, I do radio and I'm not a professional umpire. But I'm just saying that's not competitive. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. Kevin, if you watch the real time, and let's be honest, that's the Braves, that's Max Fried on the mound, or that's Will Smith on the mound. Do you go, well, he hit him? Or do you go,
look, I could theoretically buy the argument because I understand the break of baseballs, but what I don't understand is why you can't review it and say this ball was a strike. So even if you were anticipating movement, you leaned into the strike zone. I don't understand why that's not reviewable.
Hold on, real quick. BJ, a couple of years ago, your favorite team in college football was playing a team from Miami. Why don't you like to talk about that game? Because something happened at the end that you go, listen, it is easy to talk about it when it's not your team. If that was the Braves home opener, Kevin's like, did you see that? All I'm saying is everything is cool when it ain't your team. When it was your squad, as my granddad would say, ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. I'm just saying that's nonsense.
We've got more to come here on 3 Now. Hopefully we won't see any that like that in the Braves and the Phillies. Man, I would lose my mind for sure at the end of the day. But we'll come back. We'll start our mock draft. We're going to go one round. We're going to start with our first 12 picks in the draft. BJ, Ben, Cody Queen, myself will run it down, and we'll see how it turns out in our kind of latest 3 and Out mock draft. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here on this Friday. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, I'm glad you are with us here on the show. NFL Combine this week, kind of the last chance for interviews and things of that nature before we get to the draft. We will embark once again on this is our mock draft 3.0. Got a little more information about what teams are potentially looking at here. BJ will get the first pick, Ben 2. Cody going to pick with us. He will get pick 3. I will get pick 4, and we will rotate so on and so forth. Now, if you feel like a trade could happen in a certain spot, we are open for debate on that. We will do the first 12 picks here in the draft. So we start off with BJ Bennett, you representing the Jacksonville Jaguars, maybe the easiest pick in a draft. Go ahead.
Yeah, real simple. It's always been Trevor Lawrence. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence. You appreciate what Gardner Minshew's done, but Trevor Lawrence, especially with some of Minshew's regression after a really hot start, is somebody you can build your franchise around. He's theoretically going to be your quarterback for the next decade plus. So I could talk about it. I could explain it. I don't need to. It's Trevor Lawrence at number 1 overall, and there's never been any doubt. Trevor Lawrence, number 1 to Jacksonville.
Ben.
I mean, for me, it's easy. I mean, we see a guy that really, really jumped up. You know, we talk about what he did last year for BYU. I mean, Sam Darnold moves on to Carolina, which leaves a big void at the QB position. So for me, number 2 overall pick, Zach Wilson out of BYU.
Zach Wilson certainly seems like that's going to be a no-brainer. It goes to the third pick, our own Cody Queen. You are picking for the 49ers, who moved up in a trade from the Miami Dolphins.
Going with the third overall pick, San Francisco 49ers, Justin Fields.
Hey, that's very good pick. And that messes me up here because I'm now the Atlanta Falcons at 4. So if I want to go quarterback, it's Trey Lance or Mac Wilson or Mac Jones or who's the odd man out that I just missed? Trey Lance or Mac Jones, basically. I don't know if I'm willing to stick for quarterback there. I'm entertaining trades. I don't know if Justin Fields off the board entices the Broncos or Patriots to want to move up. That's a long way for the Patriots to move up. I think if those quarterbacks are gone, I don't see people panicking over Mac Jones or either Trey Lance to want to move up. I'm going to stick and make the pick. I'm going to say Falcons, although it's very intriguing to get more offensive weapons. I'm going to say help out your boy Matt Ryan and go Penei Sewell on the offensive line.
Very smart, and that, of course, leaves me in a tough spot because as the Cincinnati Bengals at number 5, I desperately wanted Penei Sewell because Joe Burrow is my foundation. My franchise got hurt last year. He was getting hit every single week, and a couple of options. You know, Rashawn Slater can play tackle or guard. A lot of people like Christian Darrisaw at offensive tackle, but I hear people say all the time, look, when you're that high, go with the best player available. I wanted Sewell, but I have a franchise quarterback. I could reunite him with his former number 1 target in Jamar Chase, but I just think that he's such a rare playmaker. I'm going to go with Florida tight end Kyle Pitts to the Bengals and Joe Burrow.
Okay, hold on. Man, that keeps my draft board kind of going. I mean, BJ, you talk about a guy,
Ben, you are the Miami Dolphins who went back up in a trade with the Eagles. So just at number 6 there.
Well, I mean, when you look at the fact that a guy, for which, was this uncoverable 2 years ago, spent a year away from football because he had literally shown us everything he could do, I'm going to go with Jamar Chase out of LSU, the number 6 overall pick to the Dolphins.
I am up. The Lions.
Yes, Cody, the Lions.
Going easy pick, Devontae Smith, going out there help him on the receiver.
Devontae Smith out of Alabama.
Yes, sir.
So not a bad pick. That falls to me with Carolina, who got the quarterback. I'm kind of torn here, fellas. They need defensive help. They could use offensive line help, but you just went out and spent money on getting Sam Darnold. Do you give him a playmaker to go around? I'm going to say in the NFL, BJ, I'm going to stick with my my kind of philosophy. If you're going to believe in the guy to be your quarterback, you better make sure he can stand up and be upright. I'm going to go with Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle, to help him out along that offensive line for the Carolina Panthers.
And this is where it gets interesting for me at 9 with Denver. And Cody's a Denver Broncos fan, and a couple of different options. Cody, I think about defensive playmakers. I know that's an aging defense that's had some personnel changes. I think about offensive line help. You have young playmakers. Could you get Rashawn Slater, who I love, can play tackle or guard? But I tell you what, when you're that high, I think about quarterbacks, and I don't believe Lance is on the same level as Lawrence or Wilson or certainly Fields. I think Fields is really underrated, but I like what Lance can do. I wouldn't necessarily need him to play right away with Drew Lock. I love his upside. I love his winning attitude. I love his toughness. I love his athleticism, his arm strength, and I can take him and not necessarily play him right away. So I'm going to take a guy that's had a stellar college career, albeit a short one, but I'm going to take Trey Lance out of North Dakota State.
Wow.
Cody is not happy about that pick.
Wow.
Ben, you are
hold on a second, Cody. As the GM of the Broncos, you should know this. If you don't have a quarterback, it's almost kind of irrelevant what else you have.
I would go defense, Micah Parsons, but
hey, not your pick. GM of the Broncos. Cowboys are on the clock, Ben Troop. Where do the boys go?
I mean, the thing about the Cowboys, when I think about them, I do think defense. I think about how bad it is. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence got a lot of money, not really getting it done. Jalen Smith not really getting it done. But I like the fact that they can have Diggs on one side from Alabama. Do they get his teammate on the other side? Give me Patrick Surtain, the second with the number 10 overall pick. Two young studs from Alabama. Leading with the star on the side of their helmet. Give me Patrick Surtain.
Stay in the division, Cody. The New York Giants on the clock now at number 11 as we do our 3-and-out mock draft 3.0.
This is a hard one. They need a little bit of help on defense, actually quite a bit of help on defense. So I would pick pretty much the best player on the defense left. I'm going to go Micah Parsons, Penn State.
All right, not a bad pick. And this is where I think my pick, it comes to me as we wrap up our first kind of segment here, the first round, BJ and Ben and Cody, is the Eagles traded back. And I think this shows why it's a good spot. All the positions that they need. Okay, Kyle Pitts is off the board. You could use a tight end. You could use corners and safeties. I don't think we've had a corner. We had a one corner taken. If I were two corners, one corner taken, and no safety. So you're wide open there. Deep wide receiver draft here. You're still looking in great shape at number 12. I'm going to say, hey, if you're committed to Jalen Hurts, why don't you go get another Jalen to help him out? Jalen Waddle still out there on the board draft. Nice. Go out there and add him again. Get your quarterback some weapons. Jalen Waddle going 12th to the Eagles. I think that would work out beautifully if you're Philadelphia. You got more picks. You move back, and you still got a big-time playmaker. But as we go through the first 12 picks, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, I think if the 49ers go Justin Fields, that changes the dynamic of the draft. I think the Falcons really set the table for the draft. If they trade out at number 4, I know people say, hey, the Patriots could jump up. Then I just don't see the Patriots jumping up 11 spots. That's just not something they do to go up there. They're going to have to give up a boatload to move up 11 spots. So, to me, the Falcons kind of set the direction of the draft. I went Penei Sewell, but if they switch and go Kyle Pitts, man, that changes a lot in this draft.
It does, and the whole thing about it is, Kevin, listen, the one thing about it is we think about what Bill Belichick and the Patriots, they've done the same thing for 20 years because they had the same guy. Well, that guy moved on, and he got another Super Bowl, and, well, they watched him win another Super Bowl. I think that in order for them to adjust to 2021, do I see the Patriots moving up to number 4? They could, because if the old Justin Fields moves to number 4, and that's the guy that you want, because think about it. Justin Fields' game reminds you of what? He's a smaller version of Cam. That's right. Cam was up there in New England, so he get to learn behind the guy who he's going to take over for. We'll see. But
and again, I think it's very interesting because the way it played out in this one, Cody took Justin Fields going to the 49ers. If that happens, if I'm the Falcons, I don't think they're going quarterback there because again, you're kind of with Matt Ryan. It's one thing if Justin Fields is there. But if not, again, I think the willingness of teams to move up to get quarterback at that point goes way down.
Yes.
Because Mac Jones, Trey Lance, I mean, I just can't see a team going, yeah, we'll move up 11 spots and give up 3 first-round picks potentially. to go get Mac Jones. I mean, we could all be wrong. He could be great, but I just don't see that happening. And again, then it starts with Atlanta. Do you go tackle? There's a number of teams that really want tackle. Do you go Kyle Pitts? There's a number of teams that really want that explosive playmaker. And people say, dude, this is a 12, 13-year tight end that's going to be dynamic. That could draw some interest. So to me, if San Francisco goes Justin Fields, I don't think the Falcons draft quarterback. If Justin Fields is still there at 4, they get a lot of phone calls real quick, Ben, about whether or not they want to move out of that spot. And that could change the dynamic of the draft. We got to step aside. We'll come back. We'll keep talking about that. We'll draft 13 through 24 coming up in the next hour, and then we'll do 25 through 32 to wrap it up in the final hour of the show. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com on your mobile device with the ESPN app. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. You can also see us streaming live Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Good to have you along on this Friday, Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Thanks for making us a part of your day again. Having a little fun with that mock draft. Ben, I know I kind of cut you off there. We had to go to break there, but again, the Falcons to me set the tone. If Justin Fields goes off the board there at 3, to me that changes the Falcons' thinking in a big way.
It is. And the thing is, who would have ever thought that? I mean, obviously the Falcons are going to change the dynamic of the draft, and maybe Justin Fields is going to change the dynamic of the draft. Everybody thinking that San Francisco moved up to number 3 to get Mac Jones, not Justin Fields. But BJ, something you've been talking about the whole time when it comes to Justin Fields. You don't move up to not go get a guy. And I know that Kyle Shanahan has never had a dual threat quarterback in his offense, but I think he might be wanting to move out of that because somebody said this. Somebody said, how much different is Mac Jones, than Jimmy Garoppolo? Not much. When you talk about what they bring to the table, they might be wanting to move out of that. So while the draft might not get started to number 4, the Patriots could the Patriots could trade up to that number 4, even though they've never done it. And if Justin Fields goes to number 3, who knows? But that's why we watch. That's why I'm looking forward to it.
And you talk about which teams could kind of get the draft going. I think Trey Lance is the X factor as a player, because think about this. I don't think he's going to go 3, but he could. And if he goes 3, all of a sudden you're going to have a number of teams who want to trade up with Atlanta, with Cincinnati, potentially to get a Fields. I think Lance is a guy that a perfect situation might be somewhere like Denver, where he doesn't have to play right now, but could get in there and compete. But I think Lance is going to go in the top 15, Ben. I mean, I think he's going to go top 15, and where he goes is going to open the door for trades and kind of set a domino effect throughout.
We've heard so much about Mac Jones throughout the course of this draft. I mean, Mac Jones is going to kind of be like Jake Locker back in the day, a guy that everybody thought was going to go number 1 and then kind of slid a little bit. Can Mac Jones potentially go to number 3 to maybe even not even go into the top 15? Don't think if the Patriots don't trade out of that spot and stay where they are, I don't think he's going to go past the Patriots. But the thing about it is it's like a quarterback is just like a running back. If they start sliding, why am I going to get him high when I can get him at a value pick, even if I think he's going to be the potential face of my franchise? So if your name isn't Fields, Wilson, or Lawrence, dare I say, we don't know where these guys are going to go. But I mean, somebody showed a meme of Matty Ice looking and saying, "Oh man," they were showing like, "Oh, the Falcons can trade out their 4th." He was like, "Really? Hey, listen, Matty Ice is going to be there."
Ben, let me ask you this. I mean, when you were in the league, did you look at the rumors of who your team might be drafting and what position their focus was going to be on?
No, I'm not even going to sit here. I was too young to understand it. I just knew this. They weren't, Kellen Winslow went number 6. Vernon Davis went number 6. I'd be looking at my position. I mean, that back in the day. So when they got Bo Scave in 2005, I said, where'd he go? They go, they got him like the 4th round. Oh, okay. Because if he goes 1 or 2, that's kind of what you're looking at, BJ, because think about this. There have been guys who was like buying homes, and somebody goes, like, Jamal Anderson was on ESPN doing the draft, and they said, the Falcons just came in. They got TJ Duckett. They was like, that's running back. I'll play running back. I'm telling you, it is a cutthroat league, people. It is not for the weak. But I just think at the end of the day, the draft is the most intriguing, thing about sports. When you're talking about who's going to be the new faces to these new people. Some people do not know that they play their last down for their team until the draft comes. That's how cutthroat it is.
Yeah, and again, I think the draft, it's always exciting to see how one pick can kind of twist the outcome of the draft, because, again, we used to see it with Al Davis. Hey, the Raiders are going to do this. Nope, they went for the tallest, fastest receiver they could find, and now everybody's like, oh, this guy's still available. We didn't think so. And people start jumping around. So, to me, that's where the intrigue is. And, again, I think if you look at the 49ers, what they do at quarterback impacts what the Falcons do, because if Justin Fields is not available, I'm not taking who's left if I'm Atlanta. At that point, I'm getting a position player that can help me win now. And as Ben said, will come in and start right now, day 1, when it's all said and done. We'll come back. Much more to come. Take 3 around the corner. We'll look at some spring football as well as 3 and out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop. Glad you're making us a part of your day. Again, streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well. Hit us up on Twitter. Love to hear from you. At Pigskin Radio. Plenty to get to here in hour number 2. We'll finish 13 through 24 of our mock draft version 3.0 here on the show. We'll also take a look at some spring football games coming up this weekend. We'll look at NC State in the ACC coming up in just a little bit. But it is 4 o'clock. Let us take 3 here on 3 and Out. It's going to be an all Masters edition of Take 3, BJ and Ben, as we take a quick look at the leaderboard. Before we do Take 3, Justin Rose is your leader right now through 2 rounds, -7. A 2-shot lead over Jordan Spieth and Leishman there as well. So Justin Rose, your leader heading into the weekend. Brian Harman still working the back 9 is -4, still with looks like 4 holes to play. He is 3 shots off the pace. So Savannah own Brian Harman right there, tied for 5th right now. 4 shots off the pace. Still some work to do here in round number 2. So a possibility, BJ and Ben, that he could be maybe within a couple of shots of the lead getting started into round number 3 on Saturday. So we'll keep you updated with what's going on there. But a Masters edition, Take 3. And, of course, we love food on the show. It is a Masters food edition of Take 3. So Take 1, the traditional food there at the Masters. People love the pimento cheese sandwich there on the grounds. Is it fire or is it just gross?
I will say this. I've never tried it, so I will say that. But growing up, my grandparents used to eat it, and it just didn't look good to me. I mean, when I think about cheese, I don't think about like a spread. I don't think about something that has like.
Have you ever eaten cheese out of a can?
No. So
Okay,
what I'm saying is, for me, I will admit and acknowledge I've never had it, but it does not look good. So I'm going to pass.
I mean, number one, I have had pimento cheese in my lifetime, and pimento cheese to me, it's kind of like liver. Had it, did it, don't want to do it again. I just think that when listen, the Masters, that's prestige, right, Kevin? That's prestige. This is the creme de la creme. This is the Super Bowl of golf. I am not gonna say, hey man, y'all got the pimento cheese sandwiches left. No, give me the cheese.
Did Kevin just ask me if I'd ever had cheese in a can?
Yeah, they have the what is it called? The ready cheese.
Yeah. The one you put on like
spray it on a cracker.
It's delicious.
It's got like
you said when I was a kid, like years ago, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
I was saying, but that like you said, you hadn't seen cheese that consistently. I think the cheese in a can is gross, but I mean, you did have it where you could spray it on.
If that's all you got, give it to me.
Yeah. But no, I'm not pimento cheese guy either, so I'm. Just count me as the fuddy-duddy on that Masters tradition. Not going to do it. Take 2. What is then the best sandwich at the Masters? Obviously, they are fan-friendly with the prices. I think Christian provides with a list of all the sandwiches. None more than $3. So fan-friendly on the prices. What is your go-to sandwich, though, at the Masters?
Yeah, and I mean, some of them on title only, you don't kind of know what exactly that means. So because of that, I'm going to go just straight barbecue sandwich. I mean, you get a barbecue sandwich, that's hard to mess up. Barbecue sandwich is simple, easy. Pretty much everybody likes a barbecue sandwich. I'm sure they do a really good job. So barbecue sandwich is always a good option. Some of the things like the classic chicken sandwich, I don't know what exactly that means. Is that a fried piece of chicken? Is that a grilled piece of chicken? I don't know. So I'll go barbecue sandwich.
I mean, for me, BJ, I'm going to stick with the classic chicken sandwich because they don't specify. I think they're going to have to meet my demands. Y'all say those classic. You think classic? For me, classic is fried chicken. To me, I want a fried chicken sandwich. We are in Augusta, Georgia. I don't want to hear no nonsense. And I'm first in line, and I will make a scene. Your classic and my classic is different, right? So give me the classic fried chicken sandwich and get out the way. Because if you put a boneless, skinless chicken breast on my sandwich, I'm gonna swing on you. I had pimento cheese yesterday, and I got to eat chicken breast today. So give me a deep fried chicken sandwich. That's what that. So I would go with the classic chicken sandwich for 100, Alex.
I think the assumption is that the food at the Masters be pretty good, right? I mean, they're not going to serve you, low grade stuff. It's the Masters. It's only the finest. So whatever you get, I think if you get the chicken sandwich, it's not going to be like, hey man, here's a couple of pieces of butter bread and go have that.
No, Kevin, what I'm saying is, if it's not fried, I'm like Ben, if it's not a deep fried piece of chicken, I'm going to pass on that.
You know
Hold on.
It's gonna be good now.
But hold on, Kevin. This is the thing too. Now, hold on. Now we finally made it into the Masters. How we got in, I don't know, but we do have tickets. So first they give us pimento cheese, and Kevin's like, "Thank you." That's all they got, dude. Like, come on, man. Then they give us a classic chicken sandwich. Now, BJ, words do mean things, right? I don't know what classic chicken sandwich is. So if they got to listen, this is when you know food ain't good. If they give it to you and you look at it and look at them like, I mean,
it's not going to be bad at the Masters. Come on.
I'm not saying it's going to be bad, Kevin, but that don't mean it's going to be good either. See, that's the problem. Like, that don't mean it's going to be good because it's the – and Kevin is saying, I don't want to be the one to mess up a tradition. Like, dude, you don't like pimento cheese? I didn't ask for it. I didn't ask for this. So give me the classic chicken, though.
I mean, it's $1.50, so that's already a
you don't eat it because you paid for it. I'm going to eat it because I paid for it, not because it was good. I'm not wasting this $1.50.
No, I again, just because the way I traditionally like this, I think the barbecue sandwich is the way to go, man. It's like, one, you figure it's going to be pretty good. BJ said, look, it's Augusta, Georgia. You said it's Augusta, Georgia. It's going to be like, it's Augusta, Georgia. The barbecue sandwich at Augusta National is going to be up to par. Like, it's not going to be like, who was it that? It's not going to be like the coach at Oklahoma is putting.
Oh my God, like Lincoln Riley.
No, Lincoln Riley. It's not going to be like that. I mean,
hey, man, who made this?
I mean, that was a little dry.
It's not going to be. Now, if it says Lincoln Riley barbecue sandwich, no, I'll pass.
What will you have with your Lincoln Riley sandwich? I'm gonna have some water because I got the swallow.
A gallon of sauce and something to drink with it, please. All right, so take 3. Well, we've eaten, but we got to have some dessert to go with it. You can get the Georgia pecan caramel popcorn or a Georgia peach ice cream sandwich.
All right, now I think all of us are dessert experts in our own way. You know, we all will eat some dessert from time to time. I know it's not necessarily great for my diabetes, but yes, that ice cream sandwich. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever had peach ice cream, but when you talk about that on an ice cream sandwich, that is absolutely astonishing. Like, that sounds so delicious, so breathtaking, like stop you in your tracks, make you look around and just kind of pause. I mean, that sounds about as good as you could do for a dessert.
Of course it is. I mean, it's all in the name. The Georgia peach ice cream sandwich. I love Georgia peaches. I love ice cream. I love anything that's a sandwich that's not made by Lincoln Riley. Let me go ahead and get that Georgia peach ice cream sandwich. No, BJ, I think I'm gonna call my mom out real quick. You know, my mom goes to the Georgia Fair one year. I said, Mom, how was it? How was the ride? She said, forget the ride. They got this thing called a Georgia peach ice cream. I said, Mama, how much did you spend on it? She said, I don't know. My dad goes, we spent $59 on food. Mama. So all I'm saying is, my
good
mom,
ice cream.
Listen, my mom said, I don't remember the ride home. That's what the ice cream sandwich did to me. I'm a passenger and I was asleep. Give me the Georgia ice cream sandwich. Oh my God, that just sounds beautiful, BJ. That is beautiful. Yes.
I know it's amazing because I too would do the ice cream sandwich, but I know BJ, a popcorn aficionado. So to pass up the popcorn to go ice cream sandwich be a good choice. I will also say for people that I know, and it's very hard to get in to cover the Masters as well for folks, but I do know and this was not an option, so you couldn't choose it, that the chocolate chip cookies at the Masters apparently are pretty legendary as well. So I've heard that from media folks like, hey, yeah, they just have them piled up, the chocolate chip cookies, they're amazing. So I think I would do that too, but it wasn't an option for take 3.
All right, a couple of thoughts. I do like popcorn, and I do like dessert popcorn. And Kevin, yes, you start putting the flavors on there. But dude, a Georgia peach ice cream sandwich, right. I can't even function. But Kevin, I do want to say this about cookies.
I'm saying, no, hold on, before you answer, because I know you have an affinity for a grate up straight chocolate chip cookie. If that was an option, would you take the cookie over the ice cream?
I don't think I can, because you're talking about peach ice cream sandwich. Like I love an ice cream sandwich. A peach ice cream sandwich will mess you up. Like, that is serious. Now, you're talking about cookies and how like cookies can kind of stop what you're doing. Do you remember, and Ben, I think you're with us, we went to ACC Media Days, and like I walk in and there are these ACC cookies and they decorated.
That would be that would be you and Kevin letting me and producer Jim know that y'all in the building. Kevin is showing us but see, that's why you go with the cookies, BJ, because see, ice cream sandwich, they're going to expect you to have, I don't know, etiquette. Get one sandwich, move out the way. I'm looking at the cookies saying, look, I don't see no sign to say how many you can get. So I'm going to try to
I'm looking at the decorations. I'm like, look, Kevin, man, they got little footballs. It says ACC on them. Kevin's got one halfway down.
Yeah.
Kevin goes, yeah, that is nice football. Give me
how many normal sized cookies will y'all eat in a sitting? Like, no, okay, normal sized cookies. Okay, let's do Oreos. How many Oreos can you eat in a sitting?
In a sitting? Oh, that first little row, I don't even remember eating that. That first little row is gone. Like, it's stop it. Oreos, I'm a grown man. I'm only gonna not eat them all because you looking at me. Don't look away because it's gonna be gone.
Yeah, I figured the cookie might be a competition potentially for BJ to choose here in take 3, but no, straight to the peach ice cream sandwich. That just sounds good. And if anybody at Augusta National is listening, send us some dry ice.
Peach ice cream by itself will knock you down. Like, that is serious. But then you talk about putting it on a sandwich, and I love ice cream sandwiches. You can hold it. It's functional. It kind of smiles at you.
I will say
mix
this.
that all together. Wow.
I will say this: ice cream sandwich is one of those things. Like, if you go a while without eating one, you're like, "Hey, would you like an ice cream sandwich?" Like, it's an ice cream sandwich. Then you eat one, you're like, "Dang, let me have another one." Like, it's one of those foods where, like, you just, like, to me, it's the same with, like, that grilled cheese. Like, you say, "Hey, man, you want to eat a grilled cheese?" And like, it's grilled cheese. And then you eat it and you're like, "Yeah, I could probably have another one of those." That's the ice cream sandwich for me. On the surface, you're like, no big deal. Then you eat it, you're like, yeah, I can see why these are popular. I'll have another one.
But what about the ice cream sandwiches that use chocolate chip cookies?
The chip witches. Yeah.
Those are
great.
You can't really, my whole lifetime, I've never seen nobody mess up an ice cream sandwich. And if they can do it, I don't know them. I don't think
it can be done. Don't put that challenge out there because it can be messed up if somebody will try to do it. We've seen stuff on the internet where people are putting green peas in a macaroni and cheese and stuff.
That's ridiculous. Those type of people need to be summoned and they need to go to jail for 30 minutes. That's ridiculous. They need to be summoned.
That's take 3. We do every day this time. We're coming back. We're talking college football. Next, it's 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We're streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com on your mobile device with the ESPN app. Glad you are with us here on the show. We'll get to our mock draft version 3.0, picks 13 through 24. Pretty wild first 12 picks so far. We'll recap those and then pick it right back up with BJ picking at number 13. But spring games this weekend, you've got Florida State and NC State getting ready. I know Dave Dorn was pumped when they asked him about the spring game coming up this weekend. He had this to say, and he was ready to go for spring. So 7 wins last year, BJ, in the ACC, even though it was predominantly an ACC schedule. What do you see from the Wolfpack here in 2021?
Yeah, also beat Liberty. Listen, I really like NC State. I think this is a very talented team that should be preseason top 25, maybe even preseason top 20. When you look at the roster, there aren't many questions and there are a lot of answers. And I think they're going to be an upper echelon team in the ACC. I don't think that it's unreasonable, Ben, we were talking about this, that maybe on the right day they could play with Clemson potentially. But look at this roster. Defensively, they are stacked. You're talking about 2 of the top 5 leading returning tacklers in the ACC at linebacker, and Peyton Wilson and Isaiah Moore. Both are All-American contenders. Former Benedictine star Jakeem Harris is a really standout playmaker at cornerback. I mean, he's a stud. You add in a couple of Florida State transfers, including Corey Durden, who's been an All-ACC multi-year starter along the defensive front. Over on the offense, Dylan McMahon, former Savannah Christian stars, doing a really nice job on the interior of the offensive line. But you get Devin Leary, your quarterback back, Zonovan Knight, Ricky Person at running back, Emeka Ekezie at wide receiver. Ben, there is talent everywhere. There is all ACC talent everywhere. There is experience on this roster. I think they are the clear number 2 team in the ACC Atlantic after Clemson.
Yeah, BJ, I'm going to say it sounds a lot like that offense for North Carolina. I mean, even though Sam Howell's going to be missing some receivers this year, definitely going to have to replace those running backs. I think when you look at NC State, they are vying for that, for that second best team in the ACC. But can they have continued success? As Kevin mentioned, 7 wins last year in the ACC to then beat Liberty in the bowl game. I just think that BJ, it's going to come down to the health, of Devin Leary. Before he got hurt, I mean, he was on a historic pace as well. When you look at what he was doing, can he stay healthy? You talk about those running backs. I mean, and I think that when you look at what this NC State team is going to do, they're going to play up-tempo offense, being able to throw the football, which is something they wasn't able to do when Devin Leary got hurt last year, and they're going to play complementary defense. I always talk about complementary defense, BJ. You talk about them linebackers, Peyton Wilson, Isaiah Moore. Those guys are going to find a way to get after it. I love that Kevin is already in mid-season 4 when it comes to the head man. But all jokes aside, NC State, they got a blend of both, veterans and young talent. I think that when you look at what this team's going to want to do, BJ, they're going to want to be able to play an up-tempo style of offense while adding the nuances of the running game. And I just think that outside of Clemson, dare I say, North Carolina might have have a problem in their hand when it comes to the NC State boys. We will see that, because you always say last year's momentum carrying over to this year's team. We'll see if that does happen. But if Devin Leary is healthy, NC State got a shot to be really, really good this year.
Well, I wanted to ask you this, Ben, about confidence, because NC State had a great year last year, had a lot of close wins where, could have gone either way. They were the team that made plays late. Does that confidence carry over year to year? And do you think this is a team that is embracing these national expectations?
I do think confidence does translate, but you got to add the expectation with it. Confidence is one thing, but do you expect to win? I mean, BJ, like you said, on any given day, every year it's going to be a team we don't expect to kind of push Clemson. Not too many years back it was Syracuse. If North Carolina don't try to run a freaking option play, they find a way to kind of beat those guys. But I think BJ, NC State, I think they just flying under the radar. Nobody expects them to do much. Kind of always, as Kevin say, ACC itself. If NC State can stay focused with this blend of young talent, they definitely got it. At the quarterback position, they're going to be loaded. They are loaded at the receiver position and running back position. I think they can go out there and make some noise. The thing is, they can go out there and play Clemson tough and then, lose to a team like Louisville. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the season. But Devin Leary, when we get to talking about good quarterbacks coming back this year, you better mention his name, because he's going to be up there with some of the best.
And BJ, NC State, one of those programs that I think the ACC would love to see get going, because they're a team that when they're good, You look at during the Chuck Amato years. I mean, it was packed. It was rocking and rolling. They're a fan base that's rabid. I think they have one of the, not the, but one of the larger stadiums in the ACC, and they got a rabid fan base and a program that could have money flowing around if they're successful. And I think that's one of those things where they could be a solid program for you as a league representative if they could ever stay on solid footing. They just have not been able to do that really.
And a lot of guys in the NFL the last couple of years, and Dave Doran's done a really good job. I mean, he's stabilized that program. You had inconsistency, you had highs and lows. Now they're a consistent winner. Won 4 straight games to end the regular season. They're recruiting well. They're developing talent. They have good balance. And Ben, that's what I like about the Wolfpack roster is sometimes, you see teams where, man, they're really great at the line of scrimmage, but questions at playmaker, or wow, loaded at quarterback, but defensively, where are they going to be? On paper, at least, I think NC State is very balanced. And I know there may be some SEC fans listening who don't know a ton about NC State, except that they lost to Kentucky in a bowl game last year. I'm telling you, this team's going to be good. They're going to take continued steps forward. Defensively, they are really experienced at every level. You mentioned the playmakers and the quarterback. Dave Doran's done a nice job, and don't be surprised if this team sneaks up into the top 15 at some point during the season.
I think they're just going about their business, as usual. I think what happens is when you're not a usual suspect in college football, it's always proving yourself. But, I mean, BJ, just like last year, it's going to be all about who's going to be that second team in ACC. Right, everybody. Sam Howell got the big name. De'Aaron King is coming off the injury. I mean, Pitt is losing a lot when you're talking about their defense. We don't know what's going on with the health of McKenzie Milton, how well it's going to be for Florida State. Georgia Tech still got very, very young guys, at key positions. Dare I say, we could be looking up saying this NC State team could definitely make a push to be that second tier team, because I don't know if Sam Howell and them North Carolina boys want that smoke, because every time we get to talk about them, they'll lose to Florida State, and I just think that when you look at this NC State team, I mean, 8-4 is nothing, it's no slouch. I love what Kevin be making fun of Coach doing. I think
hold on, because that is clearly a Kevin thing. Kevin, can you please explain that to people, newcomers on the show?
Because again, it goes back to the fact that, and it's not just me. I will say I've seen other media folks say the same thing. We were at ACC Media Days, and we had a chance to interview Dave Doran, and he just kind of came across like he could have cared less if he was saying, can we get this over with? He doesn't like doing media. So it's not so much like he won't talk to his players. And I say this because there are people that you and I both know that do radio, and I've seen them tweet, boy, Dave really not sounded like he wanted to do radio today. I'm just saying, Dave, not necessarily the most.
He's a good football coach, man.
You're going to find in the ACC.
Good football coach, but you're saying he's not going to go 20 minutes with you talking about the season.
Right, a little dry, little doesn't like doing it. It's just that's why I came up with the best impression I could do of him. It's like, hey, let me dust it off. I mean, I think that's perfect. I really don't know why you shake your head at that. Ben thinks it's
I can appreciate that, because it's almost like, listen, the SID at North Carolina State, bless him or her heart, because they be like, Coach, you gotta do this. Am I contractually obligated? Yes.
And look, I'm not faulting them. There's guys that just don't like to do it, but I'm just saying,
I'm just saying, listen. I said, listen, Marshawn Lynch, uncle, could you come out here and just do the freaking interview, please, man? It's 15 minutes. But I love the fact that we was at AC Media Days. We got a picture of Coach Doran, looking at Kevin like, that's him.
Daggers.
I love it, though. I love it. As long as Kevin's giving Coach Doran impressions, they be winning games. If Kevin start being complimentary, they might lose every game, BJ.
They very well might go. When I start complimenting.
Well, and Kevin, you look at their schedule for next year. In addition to their ACC games, Ben, they got a Thursday nighter to open the year against South Florida. But here's a couple of interesting notes. Have an early season game at Mississippi State in week 2, a little ACC SEC battle there, and then at the end of September, Clemson comes to Raleigh.
Going to be a big one for them for sure. They've got their spring game coming up this Saturday, 1:00 on the ACC network. We'll come back. We'll switch gears. We'll do our mock draft, second, kind of third of the first round, picks 13 through 24. BJ is on the clock. When we return, it's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Friday, Kevin, BJ, and Ben. A lot to get to here on the program, including we'll look at, again, some spring football coming up this weekend. Florida State's got it going. What's the ACC looking to do here in 2021? Also, the Braves with their home opener tonight, and some special things going on there. Saw the Truist Park Twitter saying 44 going to be in the outfield in the grass, not only today, but all season long. So all season long, going to have 44 out there in the outfield grass at Truist Park. So kind of a nice touch there by the Atlanta Braves to continue to honor Hank Aaron, which they will do all season long on their hats. And now, obviously, in the outfield at Truist Park there in Atlanta. We continue our mock draft. We went through the first 12 picks. Trevor Lawrence 1, Zach Wilson 2, Justin Fields there at number 3 kind of threw things off. Falcons took Penei Sewell, Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Christian Darrisaw, Trey Lance, Patrick Surtain, Micah Parsons, Jalen Waddle off the board so far in our mock draft 3.0. So, BJ, you're up on the clock. You will be selecting and or trading for the LA Chargers. What say you?
Well, we got our quarterback. We got some edge rushers. We got some playmakers. We need O-line help. And Herbert's a guy that we got to protect. I like a guy that can play tackle, that can play guard, that's ready to go right away, that's going to step in and be an anchor. I'm going to go Rashawn Slater. Probably going to start him out at tackle, but the versatile offensive lineman out of Northwestern.
Here we go.
So, Ben, you are now up on the clock with the Minnesota Vikings.
Minnesota Vikings can go a couple of ways here. I mean, obviously, we need D-line help with Danielle Hunter. We don't know what's going on with him, and we need an offensive lineman. I mean, I'm going to always protect the guy who only plays for guaranteed money, and Kirk Cousins. So give me Elijah Vera Tucker, O-lineman out of freaking USC.
Well,
Out of freaking USC.
Well, looky here. Bill Belichick having a weapon fall right in his lap. Give it to me. Mac Jones will be a Patriot.
That's quite the celebration over that pick, fellas.
I know, but Cody was fired up there for Mac Jones. I think if that happens, Bill Belichick will be going, oh, I can't believe it happened there. Now I'm picking at 16 for the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, they've got some needs, corner, running back, interior offensive line. I think this might be a good chance to trade back potentially if you're Arizona. But again, you're trying to take that step forward, go out, get some more help on the offensive side of the football. I normally don't advocate this, BJ and Ben, but I think Etienne or Harris comes off the board. I'm going to go with Najee Harris to the Arizona Cardinals.
Ooh,
just a question, GM to GM. Why Harris over Etienne?
I know they're both physical. I just like the running style of Najee Harris a little bit better for what they do with the Cardinals. I would say my preference, if I like Najee Harris as the pick, if I'm Arizona, I think I'd be trying to move back maybe 5 or 6 picks because I think I could still get him a little bit later in the draft. But with no suitors, I will take Najee Harris right here at number 16 in the draft.
Okay.
I like it. I'm at 17 with the Raiders, and we need defensive help, man. Just guys who can play defense. Any position, anywhere on defense. I'm looking at best player available. I'm looking at who's still on the board that shouldn't be. Give me J.C. Horn, the cornerback out of South Carolina, a star out of the SEC, incredible measurables, great playmaker. Give me J.C. Horn, son of a former great, obviously, in the league. Give me J.C. Horn at corner.
Ben takes over now with the Miami Dolphins at 18.
Man, I mean, the Dolphins they already got a lot of offensive help. I mean, when you look at what the Dolphins are trying to do with a guy like Tua, but the BJ once again, if the quarterback is the most important position, the second most important position is the guys who chase them. I got a young man who don't got to go far. Give me Greg Rousseau, defensive end out of Miami.
Love it.
That leads us to Cody there at 19. For the WFT, the Washington football team at 19.
This is a hard one. All right, fellas.
And the thing is, when you're picking for teams in the East, like they all believe they could probably compete with a good draft, right? I mean, that's if you draft well, you're competing to get into playoffs out of that division.
Yeah. Then if you help, definitely defense, linebacker, safety, corner, a little bit on the offensive line. I like Tevin Jenkins, but I think if I'm going to go offensive lineman, I really like this big guy from Alabama, Alex Leatherwood. Get him off the board.
Okay.
Alex Leatherwood, good. I know he's got some injury issues that might push him down a little farther in the draft potentially. I think I'm on the board with Chicago, and this is the beauty of being a Chicago GM is like, dude, we could take everything, and at this point, and it would probably be helpful. I'm going to go with one of those guys. It fills a need, BJ, and it is probably the best guy left on a number of boards, unless I have not followed our mock draft correctly. Caleb Farley, still there, cornerback out of Virginia Tech. A lot of folks think he could be a top 10 pick. If it plays out the way we've done it, Bears could get him at 20. Maybe in a real situation, maybe you try to jump up there with Arizona and pull a switcheroo, but Caleb Farley still there at 20. I think would be a steal for the Bears, who again need defensive help, tackle help. I think they go best player available on their board, and that would certainly be the case there with Caleb Farley at number 20 to the Bears. Puts BJ back up on the board once again. The Colts at 21.
We've gotten a lot better at the line of scrimmage over the years. We're winning games there, and I want to continue that trend. We got to find a way to stop Derrick Henry if we're going to win this division. I got to get an interior defensive lineman who just destroys everything, and that's Christian Barmore out of Alabama. I can't believe he's still on the board, kind of like Farley. Let me get him in there. Let him be an anchor of my defense for years to come.
Man,
all right. Your Tennessee Titans.
Oh man! So the thing about Tennessee is this. Obviously, we want to do on offense. I mean, you look at the fact that Jonnu Smith moved on to the tight end position. But for me, BJ, I want to go with a young man from my neck of the woods. I mean, if you watch this Kentucky defense, this guy can flat out do it all. He can run. He can cover. I mean, got the size. Give me Jamin. Is it Jamin Davis, linebacker out of Kentucky?
Very athletic, can cover, can rush the passer, full defense, full scheme linebacker.
Cody Queen, you're back on the board. I believe you're with the New York Jets.
New York Jets obviously need a lot of help. They are the New York Jets. A wide receiver here would be nice, but yeah, I'm going wide receiver. I'm going Terrence Marshall Jr., LSU.
Oh, okay.
That's a nice pick there by Cody. And again, that falls to me, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And to me, the Steelers, man, it's like just draft somebody that like the Steelers always are that one team in the draft, BJ and Ben and Cody, that when they draft guys, you're like, yeah, that guy's a Pittsburgh Steeler, right? Like they just find dudes who have that toughness, hard hitting. They need offensive line help. They could use a running back potentially. Could be an interesting case if Travis Etienne is still there. But interior offensive lineman, could it be a place to go? Could we see another Bama guy come off the board? Landon Dickerson to Pittsburgh. That seems like a Pittsburgh pick, does it not? I mean,
yeah.
And because Pouncey did just retire, so there's going to be a nice pick.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
he did, didn't he?
If it happens, I mean, obviously we're our mock draft, but yeah, that's we are through pick 24 in a hurry. Just what a handful of picks to go, 25 through 32 to finish it up. We will do that in the final hour. So far, how do you feel about it, BJ? Here, mock draft 3.0, but 2/3 of the way through the first round.
Well, I think it's interesting, and I wanted to ask you guys this because you see it happen in real time, right? Entering the draft, it's quarterback. Everybody loves a quarterback. We're going to go crazy over the quarterbacks. But there's always a second or third position where guys start going quicker than you think, and then guys start moving up boards, right? Like I love Alex Leatherwood, but a lot of people see him as a second-round pick. So when you see Slater off the board, Sewell off the board, you start to look around and go, got to get my offensive tackle. I don't care where the pundits have him slotted. Do you guys think offensive line could be that second position after quarterback where people just start going crazy?
You hope so, because what happens is we get so caught up in these, we get so caught up in the Jamar Chase and the Kyle Pitts of the world, getting caught up in this offensive production, and then you start asking yourself, how many times is your quarterback getting off the ground? You got to have a healthy quarterback. You want, as they say, you want the same guy taking the snap the first play of the game as the same guy taking the last snap of the season. So I just think that when you look at what's going on, BJ, I don't get too caught up in all this player didn't do this player didn't do that. You just hope that you got enough criticism that he lands on, with your team. But yeah, I do think these it's like with the quarterbacks that you mentioned. Once they start going, they're gonna go real fast. If your guy's gone and it's a guy you coveted, do not let that second round fool you, because that's when Trey's gonna start going crazy. He's the guy you coveted, and you think he could be a play and plug guy, you go ahead and snatch him.
I think offensive line is going to be a big one, mainly because look what happened in the Super Bowl. Also, you had the number one overall pick also get hurt because offensive line help. Offensive line is going to be a really sought after thing during the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, offensive lineman to me protects everything you got going on. Protects your quarterback, opens holes for your running back, give you time to get the ball to those wide receivers. Offensive line, vitally, vitally important. We'll finish those final picks coming up in the final hour of the program. It is 3 and Out. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We're streaming live at ESPNCoastal.com. Good to have you here on this Friday, Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Glad you are with us again, working through our mock draft here on the show. Went Trevor Lawrence, obviously number one, and I know we were talking about the medical evals and the interviews that are taking place at the combine throughout the weekend. But obviously, Trevor Lawrence must feel pretty good about where he's going. BJ and Ben, he's hanging out, watching the Masters out there with some dudes who are already in the NFL. Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, taking in all that Augusta has to offer. He must know or feel pretty good where he's going in the draft. Not worried about those interviews and all the medical stuff.
Yeah, he's going to Jacksonville, Ben. Right? I know people for a while speculated could there be another move, but we've known this for a year at least, right?
Man, Trevor Lawrence life is rough. When I think about what this kid had to deal with, man, he come out 3 years ago. BJ, he had to sit for 4 games. They made him sit for 4 full games before he started in college. Then he get hurt. He win a national championship against Tua. He hurt his shoulder, BJ. He couldn't throw. He threw for the scouts. Now he eating pimento cheese sandwiches. You know what I'm saying? No. Trevor Lawrence, BJ doesn't lack confidence. Yes, Urban Meyer has already did something, made his bonehead move, and he's moved on from that. This is the easiest pick he's ever going to make in his life. It's Trevor Lawrence. It will be Trevor Lawrence this year or next year, which, yes, the man is living life, Kevin, and why wouldn't he? Think about it. Trevor, what you doing this week? Oh, man, hold on. That's Patrick Mahomes on the phone. What's up, Pat? Yeah, man, I'm over. You can't see me. I'm waving my hand. Oh, what's up, Travis Kelce? Hey, BJ, man, look. Some people got it and some people don't, and that young man obviously does. Shout out to your Jacksonville Jaguars, but unfortunately, they still won't be able to tackle Travis Henry.
Obviously, Trevor's got good connects to get there in the Masters too, man.
Well, think about it though, Kevin. Who gets introduced to who? Does somebody go, "Hey, Pat, this is Trevor Lawrence. Oh, what's up, man? I'm eating my food real quick. Can I?" Yeah, I need you. No. I would never know about stuff like that, but I am happy for Trevor Lawrence. BJ, we always talking about these can't miss prospects. He's about as can't miss as you can get. And shout out to your Jaguars for being the worst team in 2020 to benefit.
Yeah. Well, Ben, let me ask you this then about the phrase "can't miss prospect." What's going to be the biggest key for him in your mind?
Understanding that his role is bigger than just winning games. BJ, he's trying to get Jackson. He's trying to do for Jacksonville what Cam Newton did for Carolina. No one was checking for no Carolina before Cam Newton got there. Next thing you know, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, primetime games, being moved from the early game to the late game. And let's face it, Trevor Lawrence is arguably one of the best, definitely one of the most famous people in football before he even take a snap. But just embracing that this is what comes with being a can't-miss prospect. Andrew Luck was that after they had Peyton Manning. And I just think that, he's used to the big – he's used to, stepping into a big role. And I think him and Urban Meyer both being new to the league at the same time, I think it's going to be better for him because I don't think he would do well with a more seasoned coach.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of pressure on him because, as you said, Ben, he has been the guy in a draft for a couple of years. Like people are like, oh, when it's his turn, he's going to be the number one guy. And you always throw around, can't miss. Well, you look at, we had a couple of guys, I don't know what, 8, 9, 10 years ago that were both can't miss, RG3 and Andrew Luck. And again, one battled injuries, jumped team to team. Andrew Luck, he kind of battled injuries. The Colts were good when he was there, but I don't think they ever really contended for that Super Bowl. So that's one of those things where you get the can't miss prospect thrown on. It's like, oh, it's going to happen. That's a lot to live up to. And as you said, Trevor Lawrence, BJ, going to a franchise that, historically doesn't win consistently. They've had a few blips on the radar, but historically, especially here recently, hasn't won consistently like the Atlanta Falcons. Hey, they may have a season here, and then it's right back to below 500, which until Matt Ryan and them showed up that they kind of turned some of that. But, Trevor Lawrence is walking into a franchise where it is going to be a lot for him to write that legacy in Jacksonville because they just traditionally have not had that 7, 8, 9, 10-year run of sustained success where they're in the playoffs or close to it. They've had a couple years run and then boom, 3 wins, and they're right back down at the bottom.
The expectations are going to be so immense, Ben, right away. The hype has been there. The guarantee essentially that you're going number one has been there. He's going to have to come in and play well, and that's unfair. That's difficult. That's a lot of pressure. Yeah. I shouldn't say unfair. Maybe that's the reality of where he's being drafted, but he's going to be asked to win games right away. He's going to be asked to have, 250 yards, a couple of touchdowns every Sunday out, to lead the team, to make plays down the stretch. The expectations are immense for Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, even at a place where you just had one win a year before.
Yeah, and BJ, I mean, and another thing that, we never ever take into context, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is potentially looking at the guy who he's trying to replace. Patrick Mahomes, outside of Tom Brady, it's the face of the league. Well, he's staring in the face of the guy who potentially wants to be the face of the league, and a guy like Trevor Lawrence. And like I said, the reason why when quarterbacks make it, they had to be very, very strong mentally, because they got to deal with what nobody else deals with. I mean, everybody else, we go to practice, we do interviews, we go home. Our face ain't on billboards. We don't have national commercials. So we'll see. But Trevor Lawrence is built for it. We'll see, because that smoke is coming, and that AFC South is going to be a little bit more competitive this year.
And he is enjoying the Masters right now as Justin Rose, your leader in the clubhouse, -7. Will Zalatoris, yes, that Will Zalatoris is second at -6. He's in the clubhouse. Savannah's own Brian Harmon at -5, 2 shots off the pace. He is currently on 18 as we speak. So he's tied with Jordan Spieth and a couple others there at -5, 2 shots off. So a chance maybe to be within one of the lead heading into Saturday. Great position. Good to have you along here on the 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, glad you are with us here on this Friday. We'll talk with Perry Kostadakis of Tomahawk Nation. We'll talk FSU spring game coming up with him in about 20 minutes. Also, the Braves got their home opener coming up tonight against the Philadelphia Phillies. Charlie Morton getting the start there for the Braves. But we must, fellas, finish our mock draft. We go into the final round, our final third of the final round. BJ Bennett is back on the clock, and just serendipity, you are picking for the Jacksonville Jaguars yet again at 25. And before you pick, did you say that you are putting our picks into a draft simulator to see how good and or bad we are doing individually? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I know. I know Cody does this a lot. I do too. You have various draft simulators online that'll give you grades and kind of rank and assess what you do. So I'm putting pick by pick into the PFF draft simulator. So at the end of the day, it'll give us an overall grade, individually, pick by pick, and overall of how we did.
Okay, I'll be interested to see how bad potentially we did here. But BJ, you were on the clock at number 25 with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, and at 25, I think I get a good mix of value, best player available, and need. Kwity Paye, the edge out of Michigan, was talked about as a top 10 pick for a long time. He's slid down a little bit in some of the mocks. I don't know why. Great athlete, big-time star, has been a great contributor, a leader for a couple of years. I like Allen on one side. We're still kind of waiting and seeing with Chase on, so I can put Paye there, and I think he can play tackle or end depending upon the situation. So give me Kwity Paye out of Michigan at 25 overall.
Ben, you are on the clock with the Cleveland Browns.
When I think about the Cleveland Browns, obviously I think their offense is intact. When you look at what they want to do on offense with the two-headed monster at running game, you look at what I think you talk about like, but the defense, BJ and Kevin. I keep going back to you got Myles Garrett, first team All-Pro. Greedy Greedy Williams. You talking about Denzel Ward. You talking about Grant Delpit. Dylan Moses needs a partner, BJ. And there was a young man out of Mizzou that if you haven't had a chance, he hit everything that moves. Give me Nick Bolton, linebacker out of Mizzou, to the Cleveland Browns.
That puts Cody Queen on the clock here at pick 27. You're picking for the Baltimore Ravens.
Wait, who did you pick?
Nick Bolton.
Nick Bolton.
Out of Mizzou.
All right, hang on. Let me update my draft.
DJ is on the Cody is on the clock.
I got time.
No,
All
we're
right.
on
I like
Ravens,
the Bolton
not
pick.
draft.
Athletic linebacker, very similar, Ben, to the Bucs linebackers that helped them win the Super Bowl.
Yes. Nick Bolton, man, big time talent, big time producer on a team that kind of underwhelmed.
All right, go on my pick. The homie Jalen Phillips out of Miami, edge.
There you go. I think that's a solid pick there for the Ravens. They usually will go that way. I've got the Saints here at 28. And again, the wide receiver market, pretty deep. I think you can still get value there. Edge rusher, I'm kind of up in the air on what you need to do. I think in this division, you're going to need to get pressure on the quarterback. So I was kind of up in the air about where to go. I believe Kadarius Toney is still out there. You could do a number of things, but I'm going to switch it up and go Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia. Some edge help. That's back to you, BJ.
I like the Ojulari pick. Really athletic. And Ben, just quickly, I'm curious, do you think he's a 3-4 outside linebacker kind of situationally out of Georgia, or can he play 4-3 defensive end and obvious passing downs?
I mean, definitely a 3-4 linebacker, has a really, really good first step. Azeez Ojulari is going to be one of those undersized type guys that got a quick first step. Not to say they are the same player, but more of a Von Miller type mode. When you not the biggest guy, but can play the run and definitely really explosive off the ball. So I think Azeez Ojulari, he'll be able to learn a lot from old Cameron Wake, out there in New Orleans.
All right, Green Bay, I got to get a receiver. And I like a wide variety of receivers that are out there, but Rashad Bateman's been in the cold weather, big, physical, strong guy, can be a number one. I'm going to go Rashad Bateman, the wide receiver out of Minnesota, and that should make Aaron Rodgers happy.
Oh, well, you finally got I think, and I meant Cameron Jordan, not Cameron Wake, with out there in New Orleans. But BJ, you talk about this Bills team last year that definitely, Josh Allen took another step. They added Stephon Diggs. They got really, really, they was able to shut down Lamar Jackson. But when I look at that in corner, I seen Josh Norman. Josh Norman's been in the league a long time. They're going to have to address that cornerback position. So for me, another junior coming off the board, give me Asante Samuels Jr., cornerback out of Florida State, going to the Buffalo Bills.
Gives it over to Cody Queen. With his pick, it would be the Kansas City Chiefs.
I could go a few ways on this one. Need a little help on the offensive line. Actually, quite a bit of help on the offensive line. So I'm going to go Samuel Cosmi, Texas.
All right, and then it leaves it to me with the Bucks and a number of places you could go here. You could go, wow, Travis Etienne still out there on the board. BJ and Ben, you could go Kadarius Toney still out there. I mean, it's the Bucks, and they're bringing everybody back, right? So it's like you could literally pick anybody who you can develop and grow into a player, right? I mean, it's so for that situation. I'm going to take a guy that can get on the field and play in a couple of different places for him. I'm going to go Kadarius Toney going to the Patriots and just add more problems.
You mean the Buccaneers, not the Patriots?
Yeah, I'm sorry, to the Buccaneers. Correct. Yes.
Tom Brady. You mean that's what you mean? Going to Tom Brady.
Yeah, going to help Tom Brady out. Just put more playmakers out there. And again, they have a number of things place they could get better in the draft. But I mean, I think the Patriots, with everybody coming back, BJ probably. There's a reason they're picking last, obviously, in the first round. But to me, the Buccaneers just go out and get the top guy on your board, right? I mean, because you're bringing everybody back, so just go get the best player you could possibly get.
I think that's why you're in such a good position, you know, aside from the fact that you're already good, right? And you already have proven playmakers and you have a championship, or you've been right there. If you're Tampa, Kansas City, Buffalo, you have a chance to truly take best player available. And you know, I think there's always a hybrid of that, right? Always, because teams are going to look to positions where they feel like they need help. But I do think, I mean, Ben, is it fair to say the later you get in the first round, and then certainly the later you get in the draft, you're just drafting off of talent and not necessarily to match a need on the depth chart per se?
Yeah, once you get past, I mean, you know, I know in the NBA, if you're not a lottery pick, you just picking players. I think once you get past pick, like maybe 15, I think you're trying to go ahead and get best available. But I do agree with what, you know, Kevin said. I mean, you got all 22 starters coming back. When people talk about what is the Tom Brady effect, when he was with the Patriots, they found a way to keep the band together because he took less money, because he cares about winning. I mean, and I think what happens is the fact that all 22 starters are coming back, that means – and listen, there's a guy by the name of O.J. Howard that plays tight end. He didn't even play last year for the Bucks, and they still won it. All I'm saying is a guy like Kadarius Toney coming into a system to where they're going to spread the ball around, I think will be a really, really nice pickup. But yeah, I think about certain guys in the draft that we just picked. I mean, a guy like Azeez Ojulari who can learn how to be more of a, put his hand on the ground type defensive end. BJ learning from a guy like Cameron Jordan. I mean, a guy like, Jamin Davis, going to the Tennessee Titans. I think you're going to have a lot of, because we get caught up in the top guys, right? I get it. But the guys who end up being all pro, Stephon Diggs, I think, was a 4th round draft pick when he came out, out of Maryland. He was a first team all pro last year because he went from Kirk Cousins to the smidgen under 6'5" Josh Allen. And what a difference that the scenery make. I mean, so I do think when you look at some of these guys, it should be very, very exciting. BJ, I'm looking forward to seeing how bad our draft picks were. But shout out, listen, but think about this. Shout out to the homie Kevin for drafting one of them boys.
That wasn't why I did it. I mean,
I know that's not why you did it, but
I could have gone a number of ways there. I think it depends on how it falls, but I mean, you take a guy that can play and do a number of different things for you right away. Why not on a team that's going to be obviously loaded? I will say this, for all the talk the last couple of days that we've had on the show, I know we have varying philosophies about drafting running backs. To my knowledge, we only took one in our mock draft in the first round. A lot of receivers, quarterbacks, obviously.
0
tackles.
Interior defensive line in the first round we went with.
I took Christian Barmore, Cody.
Christian Barmore's gone.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Christian Barmore's off the book. Yeah, but not a lot of interior guys, just a few interior offensive linemen, a lot of tackles, receivers. I think one tight end, a couple of DBs sprinkled throughout there. Pretty nice little solid draft for the first round, but through it all, only one. So we would be entering round number 2. Travis Etienne still on the board. You still have some guys that were at times thought to be first round grades still out there on the board.
And yeah, the grades I got back were all over the place, as you guys might have expected. We had a wide variety of grades. We were A's, B's, C's, and some even lower than that. So we had grades all over the place. But I wanted to ask you, Ben, as you did it, obviously, for the playmakers, right? This is a playmaker-heavy draft. What's I mean, is that a fairly seamless transition, or is that a difficult transition compared to some of the other positions in their transition to the NFL from college?
I do think it is. I do think it's a hard transition because I mean, guys get so used to dominating where they come from, not realizing you're going to get the best in the world to where you're going. I'm not saying that guys can't become incredible players. I mean, I didn't see Travis Kelce becoming the number one tight end in the league when he first got drafted out of Cincinnati. And so I just think that when you look at what I think the best story in the NFL not being talked about is freaking Darren Waller. Darren Waller was a receiver at Georgia Tech. Gets drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. He was relatively he was a role player. Goes to the Raiders, and he has been balling ever since. But we group him in with with the Kittles of the world, with the Travis Kelce's of the world. But I think the draft is going to be really, really good, BJ. I mean, I'll go back to your Jaguars. Y'all running back Robinson, undrafted, started almost every game. So it's a crapshoot. I mean, we don't know who's going to be this, who's going to be that, but I will say this. BJ, this is going to be a very, very, very exciting draft.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. We'll come back. We'll talk some college football. Spring games going on. One in Tallahassee. Perry Kostadakis will join us when we return. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben here on 3 and Out. A lot of college football getting in work here in the spring. A couple of teams we've talked about going to have spring games tomorrow. NC State spring game on Saturday. Florida State, a spring game coming up this weekend as well. And joining us here from Tomahawk Nation, also host of Seminole Rap, Perry Kostadakis, joins us here on 3 and Out. Perry, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing great because you pronounced my last name right. Like, that was just fantastic showmanship there. I really appreciate that.
That makes my day because I'm the guy that the other two guys look at me and say, "Hey, you got the pronunciations going." So I'm glad I got it right here on a Friday. But speaking of getting it right, what's going right there with Florida State? I know a lot of transfers as they are coming here through spring. What does that mean for the roster and maybe how quickly they think they can get it turned around there?
That is like the really main good thing that happened, because as far as recruiting with high schooler, it was a little bit more less of an emphasis this year. No quarterback taken from the high school ranks. Mackenzie Milton, really that huge name that people are a little wary on, but they're aware of what he did at UCF and what he's capable of. Jermaine Johnson, as I'm sure you all are very familiar with, is standing out. Like, he is doing fantastic. All of those SEC transfers, Jamie Robinson from South Carolina, they have looked great, which is kind of a poor reflection on the talent that was already at Florida State, but they're just kind of elevating what's there. As far as a turnaround, 7 wins would be a double improvement plus 1 win as far as those expectations there.
Mackenzie Milton, obviously a guy that was a superstar not long ago in college football. How has he looked, and is the expectation that he's going to be the guy and is good to go?
He has looked great as far as, being able to play football, which is ridiculous considering the injury that he had at that point in time. Jordan Travis has not been counted out yet, though. Apparently he has bulked up. He has put on that weight that is trying to help him avoid the kind of injury bug that plagued him last year. He was pretty much the only good spark from Florida State last year. Like, Jordan Travis was the only exciting part of the entire team. And even if Mackenzie Milton is somebody who ends up starting, then I would expect Jordan Travis to maybe, a Chris Leak, Tim Tebow role, a Taysom Hill, Drew Brees role, where they make sure they get that playmaker on the field.
And Perry, when you look at the fact that obviously Mackenzie Milton, I mean, you talk about how with the injury that he came back from, how has the offensive line looked? I mean, it's been a long time since this Florida State offensive line has looked even halfway decent. How have they looked in the spring, and do they think they can keep Mackenzie Milton, healthy for the whole season?
That was putting it polite, like halfway decent. Like, they have been among the worst offensive lines in college football since around the 2017 year. And a lot of that, which, no offense to James Blackman, because he put up with all the hits, the physicality, he was not as mobile as you would want from a quarterback. So it did at times make the offensive line, which already had its own struggles, look even worse. Jordan Travis stepping back and being mobile, allowing both his receivers to get open, the running backs to become a legitimate threat, defenders having to freeze in place, made the offensive line look better. I can't remember the exact numbers, but offensive line coach Alex Atkins had them shooting up at the ranks to like halfway decent. So they actually reached that halfway decent standard. A lot of that has been from transfers, from freshmen coming in. They should still be average, halfway decent, but considering that the goal 2 years ago was don't be terrible, it's like a nice little elevation. I think if Mackenzie Milton is able to go outside the pocket, move around, he should be fine staying healthy.
Perry, you have to forgive me. I'm kind of chuckling here because we're talking about Florida State, a team that for years has been, very consistent at being good. And the words not terrible and halfway decent were coming out to describe where they were at on the offensive side of the ball. That being said, is there a belief that they can win games offensively here in 2021, or is there going to have to be score enough and hope the defense holds up?
That the second is going to be the hope. The defense, as far as the trenches, looks a little bit better with the addition of Jermaine Johnson, Fabian Lovett, the transfer out of Mississippi State, who started to come out at the end of the 2020 season, has looked really great so far in spring camp. But the linebackers, huge question. Senior linebacker Emmett Rice suffered what could be a season-ending injury. We haven't gotten the exact details on what that is yet. they were a concern last year. Amari Gainer, maybe the only positive there. The defensive backs, they've got defensive backs for days. Like, it is like the Georgia running backs equivalent at FSU. That should be good. We'll see how many of them are able to step up and actually solidify at the position. But as far as offense goes, Mike Norvell has had finally a full spring to install that offense. He has finally been able to see what each of his individual athletes to do, because a lot of them aren't even specifically running backs or wide receivers. There's Ja'Kai Douglas, Corey Wren, 2 freshmen who barely saw the field, but they are fast, like great athletes. They have gotten a full strength and conditioning program in. I'm sure you all have noticed the same. Georgia, like every college football team, they got robbed of a whole year. So just in general, I think the level of the game should be elevated. We've seen how Mike Norvell can use his athletes. He loves to call it a playmaker offense. But this is kind of like a put up or shut up year. Like, they had the excuses last year. First year coach, no spring, barely a fall. But this year, games should be won. The games that they should win should be won. They need to upset a team or two. And then absolutely, you cannot get smacked by Florida and Miami.
You mentioned playmakers. Travis was the lead guy last year. Who are the playmakers going to be at running back and receiver this fall?
This fall, so far, Malik McClain and Joshua Burrell, 2 freshmen, have actually looked the best, which to a degree is a little bit concerning, but they both don't look like freshmen. They have college bodies at this point, so that's good. Running back, Lawrence Toafili, last year came alive a little bit. He struggled with his own injuries. He still should be that consistent every down back. Corey Wren has looked great. And then Treshawn Ward, who actually was a walk-on who earned a scholarship in January, I believe, has actually looked great back there too. So there's a huge stable of running backs. Norvell has built up his athletes. He has his players in. He flipped the roster almost completely. So the pieces are in position to make that leap, but we have to see if that buy-in is actually there. Because last year, everything we heard before the season is, oh, Willie Taggart, oh, we're over that. Like, Mike Norvell, he does this perfectly. And then they won 3 games.
And Perry, I mean, even sticking with that, I mean, obviously, you're going to have people that are saying that, Mike Norvell didn't have the best year, just like Willie Taggart didn't. What has been Mike Norvell's approach from year 1 to year 2? Obviously, he had a different type of year by not having, spring. But you know how it is when you the head coach of Florida State, you don't get mulligans like coaches do at other places. What is he doing in year 2 that he had to alter from year 1?
Yeah, no, like you said, that's a standard FSU. Willie Taggart got fired halfway through his second season because they said that was not good enough. He actually has been consistent in his messaging. The first day he got on campus, his opening press conference says, the one thing I will always say is everything you do is how you will do everything, which is like super fake deep, super like philosophical coach speak, but it's something he's been consistent with. And we've seen that play into players who were huge talents and key pieces of FSU success over the Willie Taggart tenure leave, like Tamarian Terry, Marvin Wilson, good players, like great kids, but they kind of just didn't vibe with. The way that I put it has been that Jimbo Fisher was your dad, Willie was the really cool stepdad that let you call him by his first name, and Mike Norvell is Mr. Like, he takes it a little bit more seriously. He's still like a big dork and he loves hanging out with the kids and all of that, but he expects consistency and excellence in every play. His huge thing is he loves creating adversity and like making things happen in practice, and he wants to see that response emotionally and like execution wise. And assuming that the players who decided to transfer from big time SEC schools, who Jermaine Johnson had his pickup programs, I'm assuming. Like, a lot of these, Mackenzie Milton could have gone to a smaller school and balled out and maybe gone I can't remember any of the Florida quarterbacks who have transferred and had success because there's 20 of them. But the players that are there for a reason. And if they want to take that step forward, they want to bring Florida State back, they want to emphasize all that he's doing, then, like I said, like Notre Dame is an upsettable team. We always see how terrible they are week 1. Like, not saying they can win, Notre Dame will be more talented, but it's those kind of games you have to see that step forward.
I was going to say, finally, I mean, you look at the ACC, we all know about Clemson. NC State looks a lot better. I mean, how does Florida State feel like they fit into the ACC, and what's kind of a best case, worst case scenario for this season?
I would say as far middle of the pack, which is, again, like we have said it multiple times, to put Florida State in middle of the pack terms is just mind boggling, even considering in 2016 they were in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium playing against Bama in what was the game of the century. Best case scenario needs to be 9 or 10 wins, because that reflects an actual huge improvement in the program past we're winning the winnable games. If FSU had the same schedule it did last year before the rescheduling, it maybe wins 6 games, and then maybe it looks a little bit better, but the true flaws in that program were exposed. So best case scenario, you need that 9 or 10. You need to upset one of the big names. You need to win the games you need to. You need to blow out the teams you're supposed to, because last year Jacksonville State had FSU until the fourth quarter. Worst case scenario, 3 wins again, even like 5 wins. A losing record just not going to reflect well. The opinion of myself and the rest of the staff at Talent Nation is Mike Norvell is going to finish out his contract. What remains to be seen is if they extend him, because like they'll let him like finish out. He could be Ron Zook, or he could be the person who revitalizes the program.
Perry Kostadakis, our guest here on 3 and Out from Tomahawk Nation, host of Seminole Rap as well. Perry, appreciate the time. Have a great weekend. Thanks so much.
I know. Thank you. And once again, thank you for pronouncing the last name right. I really appreciate that.
Hey, man, no problem. Enjoy it. Perry Kostadakis joining us here on 3 and Out. Florida State got their spring game this weekend. And again, BJ Ben, he was cracking me up, because it's like, you're sitting back here like, hey, we're talking about Florida State. And he's like, they were trying to be not terrible and just okay. Like, oh, those were acceptable benchmarks for position groups on the team. It's like, man, and as he said, 2016, which is not that long ago, 5 years ago, it was, dude, you're right there with Alabama in game 1 talking about this could be a preview of a national championship type game, and it has fallen way off from there.
Well, you won the title in 13. You were in the playoff in 14. You won the Orange Bowl in 15. So you were right there nationally. I mean, Ben, he kept mentioning the schedule, and I agree. Do you think Clemson is probably one thing, but you play Clemson, Florida, Notre Dame, Miami, and North Carolina. All 5 of those teams are going to be preseason top 15. In your mind, are any of those games winnable?
I do agree with what he said about week 1, because you really don't know what you got as a team. And BJ, you just hope that, and like he said, in a situation like with Florida, you got to go out there and be competitive for 4 quarters. I don't think nobody going to really worry about the Clemson game. But the North Carolina game, you beat them last year with a guy that didn't even play the quarterback position with Sam Howell on the other side of the ball. Now, we'll see what happens this year. But I just go back to what I said about when you have Florida State, you don't get mulligans. You don't get no, well, I don't know what Jimbo Fisher didn't do as far as like not recruiting O-linemen. Like I've never seen anything like it. But when you're going through a recruiting cycle, you have a certain way you recruit. You got a certain player you recruit, and that was not O-lineman. And they have been suffering since. I think that all this sounds good with Jermaine Johnson and McKenzie Milton and all the receivers. If you can't keep McKenzie Milton healthy, it's going to be much to do about nothing, BJ, because I understand, that, guys are getting better. I think it's going to come down to the quarterback play, but I do think they're going to have to steal one of those wins. And dare I say, he's saying best case scenario, 9, 10 wins, worst case scenario, 3 wins in Florida State. That will not cut it. And I know he said Mike Norvell will make it to the end of his contract. We have no evidence to suggest that.
Yeah, not if 3 wins are on the docket potentially. We've got more to come here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We're streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Good to have you here on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, thanks for making us a part of your day. If you miss any portion of the show, ESPNCoastal.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. You can catch a archive version of the show. Braves home opener tonight coming up in just a little bit. Actually, about 25 minutes we'll have coverage for you of the Braves home opener. Charlie Morton gets a start. Braves with all kind of cool stuff going on, honoring Hank Aaron and Phil Niekro with the throwback unis for this opening series. Braves announcing that they're going to have 44 in the outfield all season long, so that's going to be a fixture at Truist Park as they continue to honor Hank Aaron. So all kinds of cool stuff going on. They've got made a move today. Ehire Adrianza back on the roster. He was a guy that played really well in spring training. They put Johan Camargo back on the alternate site, and if you missed it, because the Braves really, to me, didn't make a big deal. I thought it was kind of a cool story, but Ehire Adrianza had to step away from the team and then re-COVID protocol himself back in because he had to step away. He became a U.S. citizen. I thought that was a really cool thing. Last Friday, he went and passed his test and became a U.S. citizen, and that's why he was not with the team. So joining the team back for tonight's ball game, and I know he'll be excited about it, but I thought one of those things where the team kept saying personal reason. I'm like, man, I thought it was a pretty big deal, and he shared it on his Instagram. And so I thought that was a cool story there with Adrianza, and he'll be back with the club tonight.
Very cool and awesome to see Hank continue to be honored and remembered as obviously should be the case. Kevin, in your mind, is this team ready for a breakout? When you think about the offensive struggles, when you think about some of the hot and cold pitching performances, do you think this could be a pretty good weekend for the Braves, even though they're 2-4?
Well, and again, I think you go by the mantra: win a series. If you can do that, if you can go 2-3 this weekend, you'll be 4-7. That's not bad. And then you have a 4-game set with the Miami Marlins coming up at home, which, again, the Marlins are better, but that's still a team that you should be able to dominate in some respects in that 4-game series. So I think the schedule is going to turn a little bit in your favor. I think you want to see I think with the Phillies, it's not so much that the Phillies are so much better. It's just they got a lot of the breaks up in Philadelphia. And if those reverse and come back the Braves' way, I think they'll be fine. I mean, they were in every single ball game with Philadelphia, just couldn't get the one break. And the Phillies got a lot of bloop soft hits that, I mean, it's baseball. It happens. If those go the Braves' way, I think they win a couple of games. So a good chance to respond and answer. Home crowd in your favor tonight. And I think this is one of the things we'll see throughout the year, BJ and Ben, that you didn't see last year is how much of an impact 7th, 8th inning, just even if it is 10,000 people getting fired up about you coming to a bat or playing defense, how much of a factor that could potentially play in you finishing off some ball games where last year it was, a museum out there playing baseball night in and night out.
Yeah, but Kevin, I mean, when you think about the Braves too, I mean, the hardest thing to do in pro sports is to get expectation for your team outside of your city and your fan base. When you talk about the Braves, not only do we expect the Braves to do well, I mean, the rest of the league expect the Braves to do well. I mean, everybody's coming to see Ronald Acuna Jr. I mean, you never know what he's going to do offensively and defensively. I just think that when you look at what the Braves bring to the table is, BJ, I'm always looking at, I know when it comes to football, they got, quote, arrivals now. Guys getting off the bus, what they wearing, walking in. If I don't see Ronald Acuna Jr. out there dancing, him and Marcel or Ozzie, I get nervous because I used to think that you had to conform to the league instead of making the league conform to you. You got the talent. It's about being yourself and still going out there and playing your game. And I think we got some of the most unique personalities in the game. I mean, with Acuna and obviously Marcel, but I think that Freddie Freak going to get back to doing what he does. I think it's something about, you've already played 6 games in your first, game at home. I think it should be rocking in Truist Park. I just think that when you honoring, Hank Aaron, when you talk about the throwbacks, I mean, it's a lot to feel good for. But Kevin, just like I know, it will be much to do about nothing if they come out with the L. I think the pressure is on the Braves. It's 162 games. I get it. But it's a pressure for them to go out there.
Ben, let me ask you this. You're talking about pressure. A couple of guys you mentioned. If you're Freddie, if you're Ozzie, who's really struggling, if you're Dansby, I mean, at what point as an athlete do you start to kind of feel it? Or is that more for the fans, the stats and stuff like that?
I think you want to feel it. I mean, when I played in the NFL, man, what drove me more than pressure was fear. Like, I feared like not going out there making plays. Because no matter what, we all have those. I didn't have that prove people wrong mentality. But BJ, I mean, just because you a pro, don't mean you perform. I want my job position, and my performance to go together, because obviously your family gonna say the right things, but we know who's not performing up to what they're doing. And in a guy like Ozzy's situation, it's so star-studded in his lineup. You stand out when you don't play well. And Freddie Freeman built up the benefit of the doubt because he's coming off an MVP season. Ronald Acuna Jr. is Ronald Acuna. Marcel, he swings the lead. He swings for power every time he's up there. I think if Ozzy starts playing well, he might be the boost, dare I say, for the rest of the lineup. Because if Freddie Freeman does okay, I just think that when it comes to pro sports, that pressure is real. And with two things, if you play pro sports, don't mean you matter. But if you play for a team that does, you do. And that's kind of what's going on with Ozzy. What he does matters. And unfortunately, when he don't do it, it matters even more. So you're going to have to go out there and prove it, because just because they're winning, coach always say, we winning because of you, in spite of you. And if you hesitate, it ain't because of you. You want to start being the reason why this team starts winning. And it can start tonight because, Kevin, you know how forgiving baseball is. No matter what you did last game. You balled today, I told you. But if you stink it up, well, what we gonna do with it? But that's what comes with pro sports. If you can deal with the limelight, you got to deal with the criticism.
Yeah, I think for this series, a bunch of guys that you want to watch. Obviously, Ozzy Albies, Dansby Swanson, two guys that I think could be flip-flopped in the lineup potentially if their bats don't catch fire. And I think they are kind of the keys to getting some other guys going. And I think Will Smith, again, if he comes out in a close situation or a save situation and it doesn't go well, I mean, again, I know people say, hey, you got to be patient, and he's just missing. But again, ninth inning chances, there's only so many of those you're willing to let slip by the wayside. So those are three guys to me I'm really interested in seeing how they respond this series. And it's not like you've been overworked. You've had a couple of off days, one due to COVID on a Monday, one the day after opening day. You had another one yesterday. I mean, you should be well rested. Again, that you're not overworked 2 weeks into the season. I want to see Albies and Swanson have a good series, and obviously Will Smith, if he's going to be the ninth inning guy, actually prove he can throw strikes and get guys out.
And I think an important start for Charlie Morton as well. You brought him in to be an anchor. You brought him in to be a leader, to be a veteran stabilizer, right, Kevin? And I think right now the front end of your rotation needs a little help. Max Fried is struggling. Mike Soroka is obviously still out, although I expect we'll see him relatively soon. But I think for Morton, it would be a big statement and kind of a calming of the nerves if he could come out and look like a number 1, 2, or 3. And he was not bad in the first start by any stretch. But if he could go out, give you 6 full, get you into the 7th, have 7 or 8 strikeouts, maybe limit some of the run production, I think that would be a real boost for the rotation and the Braves overall.
Oh, of course it will. And again, that's why he's there. That's why you brought him in, to be that veteran presence in the lineup. And again, I think a heck of a pitching matchup tonight. You're pitching against a Metro Atlanta guy for the Phillies who came out and, not only did he dominate, he single-handedly beat you with a couple of hits and RBIs.
Hasn't Zach Wheeler, even going back to his time with the Mets, always done really well against the Braves?
Seemingly so. Let's hope that doesn't happen tonight. But yeah, he seriously. Again, when they played a couple of days ago, he had 2 hits, a couple of RBIs. He single-handedly shut you down from an offensive standpoint and beat you with his bat. And again, we don't want to see the pitcher's bat, but hey, that's all I'm going to say. I've seen more pitchers.
Are you using one pitcher getting a couple of hits to justify the pitcher batting over the long term?
No, listen, I'm saying we've seen more pitchers. I have in the first 2 weeks come up with big knocks. Ian Anderson got one. Who was it? Was it Scherzer got one the other day against the Braves? I've seen more pitchers come up with kind of clutch hits. It's fun, man. That's what you're out there.
Kevin, I've seen Pablo Sandoval hit 2 home runs and 4 at bats. So I'd like to see more from him than more of Ian Anderson at the plate.
Well, you may see more of him if he keeps doing it in a pinch hit role at the end of the day. But Braves and the Phillies coming up tonight. We'll have coverage for you in about 15 minutes or so. It's 3 and Out. We'll give you a Masters update when we come back all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Oh, great to be here on this Friday. We'll have Braves and Phillies for you coming up here in about 12 minutes on this Friday afternoon. But we check in at Augusta National. Justin Rose, your leader in the clubhouse at -7. But take a quick peek. Savannah's own Brian Harmon, one shot off the pace, -6 in the clubhouse with Will Zalatoris right there. Jordan Spieth at -5. Justin Thomas at -4. Just some of the other guys in order. Some of the big name golfers that are there in place. So the cut line going to be at +4. Matt Kuchar not going to make it, just off the pace there at +4. Not going to make it. Zach Johnson not going to make it. Brooks Koepka not going to make it. Some of the bigger names there above the cut line. But Brian Harmon, back-to-back 69s at 6 under, one shot off the pace, and will be in one of the final groups on Saturday there at Augusta National.
Yeah, congratulations to Brian. I know a lot of people rooting for him. That's a great showing. I mean, Kev, you mentioned some of the guys not making the cut, it doesn't look like. I mean, it seems like the scores are fairly close to par. I mean, not a ton of really, really low scores. Could this be one of those weekends at Augusta where if you can just get under par, you have a chance?
Yeah, I think Saturdays, Friday and Saturday, kind of your moving days where you position yourself for Sunday. I think if you look at a guy like Brian Harmon, if you can go out and shoot 1 or 2 under tomorrow, maybe even, that might be good enough to keep you in the chase. And that's really all you want. If you have the lead, maybe all the better. But I think when you look at Saturday, the goal is to not lose it on Saturday. You don't necessarily have to go out there and say, I need to win it. You still got Sunday, but you want to put yourself in position to still be there for Sunday. And right there, one shot off the pace. I think you don't want to go in there and be overly aggressive, but I think the game plan for Brian Harmon is, look, if I can go out and shoot, he's done 3 under back-to-back days. If I can go out and shoot 1, 2 under, which is still a great round, I'll be in great shape heading into Sunday for the final round at Augusta.
So like Christian always said, man, it comes down to strategy. And something you said, Kevin, most of the time people say when is prevent defense, suitable in the Masters. I mean, you put yourself in a position to get in the lead, do not do anything to lose that lead. It's more about, preserving your victory instead of trying to, go out there and do something crazy. But that dreaded Sunday final round, I mean, just look on their faces. Christian called it, a couple of years ago, obviously when Tiger won it. But the goal is to put yourself in a position to make it Sunday and do not crash and burn at the end.
Yeah, and again, I think you look at what happens at Augusta. A lot of times you see a guy have a really solid round, and you see a guy kind of implode the moment gets too big. You get to the back 9 on Sunday, and one bad thing happens. You're like, uh-oh. Then another bad thing happens, and you just can't keep that from compounding. I think a lot of it is just how you play the course. And to me, if you're in contention on Sunday, just go out and take opportunities when they're available. Don't go to certain holes. I got to get birdie and be super aggressive. Like, if this hole provides an opportunity for me to get a 3.
Is that different than other tournaments, though, Kevin? Because you've heard a lot of people say be aggressive, try to gain that stroke. Is that not necessarily the right approach at Augusta?
Well, because in a major championship, and especially with Augusta, there's not usually that guy that's going to go out and shoot 8, 9 under on Sunday, right? You're going to see guys that take chances. You don't get rewarded a lot of times for chances at Augusta. So if you're overly aggressive, it can come back to bite you a little bit. And so very rarely, unlike the chip and putters that you see out there at a lot of courses, you see a guy just go out there on Sunday and drop a 8, 9 under and just tear up the course. Usually it's 1, 2, 3 under maybe will get it done. And you see guys really going the other way, where it's 1, 2, 3 over on Sunday is what hurts you, not a guy just blazing up the course. So I think if you're Brian Harmon, 1 stroke, 2 strokes off the lead, man, you are in great position to be there on Sunday. We'll see how he does. We've got Braves baseball coming up in just a little bit. Enjoy your weekend. A lot going on, Masters, Braves, and more. We'll see you Monday to talk about all of it right here, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network.